Hey everyone, Logan Hertz here with Hazeltine LLC. I thought I'd give a brief update on my health situation. Maybe not so brief because it'll be a lot of stream of consciousness and some of the lessons learned. Let me know if you think this is helpful. This is not something I normally like doing. I'm normally very much a closed book. I'm someone who doesn't like social media, doesn't like sharing. However, I do see the value in it at the same time. So I thought I'd give some updates on some of the things that are going on, but more importantly, talk about in a very stream of consciousness, disorganized way, some of the things I've learned and some of the things that I hope will be helpful to the audience. Because I know there are a lot of people out there who are navigating health challenges for themselves, for a friend, for a family member, and those come in all different shapes and sizes. And there's the challenge of navigating the health issue. And then there's the challenge of navigating the health system, which is a whole nother challenge in itself that very few people are prepared for. Right? It's bad enough that you have these health issues. Now you have to navigate a system as well that let's just say doesn't have the best interest of the patient at heart. First of all, I want to thank everyone for the support and for the prayers that you've given me. It's been a difficult time. I've been struggling with this sort of thing for multiple years, sometimes better, sometimes worse. I have health issues going on, which are potentially life threatening, almost killed me once, and that remains very mysterious. Some things have been figured out. We know some things. There's been progress in some ways, in other ways, there's been regress. But it's been a real struggle. So I appreciate the support that people have given. I appreciate ongoing prayers and support. And I hope for those of you out there who are struggling with similar things, it might be helpful to know that you're not alone. There are, and unfortunately, a growing number of people out there who have chronic health issues, whether diagnosed or undiagnosed, that they struggle with, and they feel very alone and very powerless in navigating this healthcare system that can be so challenging. So I just got back from a trip from New Jersey, following up. I'm not going to share everything, but some things. I had surgery, very almost experimental kind of surgery done about a year ago. I went for a follow up a year later. It's good news, bad news. The good news is that from what they could measure, the surgery seemed to be successful. It seemed to have accomplished what it was supposed to accomplish. Not 100% there, but improving, getting there. The bad news is it doesn't seem to have really necessarily improved my symptoms like we had hoped. We're redoubling physical therapy and some other things. So I'm not sure what to do with that. I'll be going to the Mayo Clinic in late April for some other things. I'll also be going to Georgetown in September. Those are the soonest I could get. Those are medical centers of excellence. Of course, I continue to try and navigate everything that I can and also try to use my own intuition as well as I try and navigate this. So, what are some of the lessons that I've learned here? The number one most important thing that I've learned that I keep hammering is you need to protect your insurability. If you still have your health to a reasonable extent, you are still insurable. You can still get insurance of various kinds, whether it be life insurance or various forms of health insurance. So, in my opinion, you need to protect that. You secure your full human life value by taking out a convertible term life insurance policy for the full amount you're eligible for with a good mutually held life insurance company. And I can help you find the right one for you. But the point is, a convertible term policy protects your insurability because you have the guaranteed right to convert it to whole life at some point in the future. So basically, you can protect that rating for the rest of your life if you want to. Okay. So all your options are on the table. Once you lose your insurability, you don't really have any options anymore. Or maybe you are still insurable, but you're insurable at a higher rate because you develop some health issues or what have you. On the health insurance side, another thing to look at is health sharing. And there is an element of protecting your insurability with health sharing, because one of the reasons why health sharing can be more affordable than health insurance is that there are limitations on pre existing conditions. So, health sharing tends to be very cost effective for healthy people, maybe not as much of an option for people who are not healthy because they need guaranteed issue health insurance that's going to cover their pre existing conditions. Even though health sharing is technically not an insurance policy, it operates under the same kind of underwriting standards. So you want to get health sharing before you develop any of those pre-existing conditions. Also, you want to look at disability income insurance, critical illness insurance, maybe long-term care insurance. All of those you can get locked in so they're permanent or non-cancelable or guaranteed renewable policies, basically so you know your insurability is locked in. So that's number one most important thing. Protect your insurability while you still have it, because at some point in the future, you will lose your insurability. And when it happens, oftentimes it happens suddenly. So don't take it for granted. Do not take it for granted. There are a lot of options available to you, especially with whole life insurance. There's so many things that it can do for you that you won't be able to do once you lose your health, which you will at some point. Another thing I've learned is always get your medical records from all of your visits. So anytime you go and visit any medical professional, typically you can get it from the portal. Make sure you have all of those yourself. Don't trust anybody else to keep it for you. Make sure you have it and get the actual images if you can. So if there are x-rays or CT scans or MRIs or anything like that that get done, get the actual images. Takes a little bit of extra work, but make sure you get those. Those are important because oftentimes you're going to want to get a second opinion, which can be very useful. First of all, radiologists, who are sometimes the ones reviewing these images, are typically not trained in other areas. So they might not see certain things. They don't know you and your health history intimately. And oftentimes they're only looking for what they're told to look for. They're not looking at everything. I've also learned from radiologists that I have as clients that radiologists are oftentimes rushed and understaffed, and so they don't have the time to really give your image the full attention that it deserves. So you want to make sure not only do you have the results, but you have the actual images so you can get a second opinion. And good doctors are going to want to look at those images too. They're not just going to take what the radiologist said as the interpretation. They're going to look at it themselves because they might have a different interpretation. They might see something that the radiologist missed. I've had this happen to me more than once where there were things that the radiologist missed for various reasons. Maybe it wasn't what the radiologist was told to look for. Maybe the image was checked for one specific thing and that's all he's looking for. He's not looking for anything else. Another is develop a relationship with a trusted medical professional who does not take insurance, someone who's outside the insurance cartel. The reason is because there can be really good medical professionals who take insurance. However, that insurance company limits them. That's who pays them. They are limited by what is insurance going to cover? What requirements does the insurance company have? A lot of times that's what's hiding behind some of these policies that oftentimes don't seem very reasonable. And at least it needs to be someone who cares about you in a professional capacity, obviously not a friend, not a family member, but a professional capacity, is willing to do long-term problem solving, which is a real challenge, not just refer you to somebody else, not just do endless tests like a robot, but actually, if something happens, try to help you figure out what's going on. And ideally, someone who's willing to work with alternative providers like naturopaths or acupuncturists or what have you. Not that those alternative providers are the end all be all, but I found this can be a good litmus test for both sides. So if you're working with someone who's inside the conventional medical system and you just mentioned them that you're seeing a naturopath or you're going to get acupuncture, see how they react. A good doctor will be open to that. As long as it works for you, why would he be opposed to it and willing to work with someone like that? A bad doctor who's more closed minded may not be. He may lecture you a little bit about why those people are not approved or what have you. And the same goes the other way, too. If you're working with someone who is an alternative healthcare provider, and they start trashing what they call Western medicine or drugs or what have you, maybe not the best one to work with. You want to be able to pursue all angles. And when you really are struggling with these health challenges, you're not going to care where the help comes from, whether it's conventional or unconventional, Western or Eastern, whether it's modern or old, who cares? As long as it works. You just want medicine, treatment, a cure, ideally, that works. You don't care where it comes from. And it might be a combination of those, right? It might be a combination of those. I would recommend developing a relationship with one of these alternative providers as well. Not that they're the end all be all. They're a mixed bag. I've had some that were good. I've had some that were not so good. What's interesting is some of them actually are MDs. So the first homeopathic doctor I ever saw a long time ago, she actually was an MD. So some of them have those credentials, but they decide they can help their patients more with homeopathic or naturopathic remedies or what have you. Oftentimes they do that because they find that they cannot really help their patients in the conventional medical way. One of the interesting things I found is that my naturopathic doctor that I work with currently, all of the naturopathic remedies she's given me actually have not worked. They really haven't helped me. Maybe they've helped me marginally, but where she has helped me is by helping me to navigate the conventional medical system where she actually does research. She actually is trying to help me figure out what's going on. And that's where she's been the most helpful to me. And she has actually more than once had to lecture the medical professionals in their own supposed field, especially about something they didn't know about because she actually did the research. They did not. Lecturing, as an example, radiologists on what a diaphragmatic ultrasound is. They didn't know what it was, just as an example. Another thing is to manage what goes into your record. This is important for insurance and just in general. Once you've developed a relationship with a medical professional that you trust, you can have candid conversations, but ask him not to put it into your record. Anything that goes into your medical record is going to affect your insurability. It's going to affect you going forward when you try to apply for any kind of insurance policy and maybe in other surprising ways as well. So you want to be careful what goes into that, right? Now, if it has to be that way in order for you to get better, then so be it. But especially if you're dealing with something behavioral or psychological or what have you, you can have a conversation with your doctor and ask him to keep his own private notes and not put it into your record. If you tell your doctor that you're drinking a lot or you're depressed or whatever, these are things that can go into your record that can absolutely affect your insurability. And there are ways to get treatments for that such that it doesn't go into your permanent medical record. So you want to manage what's in that as closely as you can. Sometimes it's unavoidable that negative things will get in there because you do need treatment. So I'm not telling you not to get fixed. I'm not telling you not to address these problems, but oftentimes there can be ways to do it so that at least some of that information doesn't make its way into your permanent medical record. And to the extent that you can manage that, the better. And that also goes back to why you want to keep your own records, which is not hard, so that when you go to see a new doctor, you can just have it with you. Because oftentimes they can, in theory, pull records, but oftentimes that can be a lot more challenging than you might expect. So bring them with you. I bring my laptop with me. I have the documents there. Anything the doctor needs to see, I can show it to him right then and there. Because it would be nice. What should happen is doctors should review everything in advance, but they don't. They don't know you from Adam. Got to explain everything to them. So just be prepared to do that. And then another thing is if you are struggling with some kind of a medical issue, look for a community of support. So there are online or elsewhere communities of support for whatever you might have, pancreatic cancer or heart disease or whatever it is. You can oftentimes find communities out there that will help you in ways that doctors cannot. They oftentimes can provide a lot of very common sense practical wisdom that the doctors really cannot provide. And it's really not their specialty. Like a heart surgeon isn't going to help you with day to day dietary advice or very practical things for how you can navigate this. As an example, if you have sleep apnea or if you have sleep issues, there can be so many practical things that you can do that you can try. And even more importantly, you can post stuff oftentimes to these boards, these online forums where other people can give you much more helpful information than a doctor. when I was diagnosed with sleep apnea, which in hindsight, I think was a misdiagnosis, I was posting some of my data on a sleep apnea forum, and I got much more helpful, much more detailed information from the people on that forum than I ever got from the doctor. The doctor could not care less. They're not going into nearly as many details as these people were, and they're very unhelpful. Very unhelpful. They just give you CPAP and figure it out. And if they look at the numbers, they look at like one or two key numbers, and that's it. Like a lot of helpful information. And then the last thing is, I know this is very much stream of consciousness and disorganized, but try to find an advocate if you can. And again, get this all arranged, if you will, at least informally ahead of time. When you're dealing with stuff like this, you're going to need an advocate. You're going to need someone who's advocating for you, someone who has your best interest at heart, someone that you trust. They don't have to be medical professionals or someone who has a medical background, although that would be helpful if they did. But it more needs to be someone who can actually be there for you and advocate for you, because you are not going to be in any position mentally, emotionally, physically to do the advocating for yourself. And that can make a big difference. So, thanks everyone again for your prayers and support. I hope this has been helpful. God bless.